I'm Chosen Architect, and this is my modded adventure. Now, last episode, I mentioned how I wanted to get into some cooking, and today we're going to dive into the Farmer's Delight mod. Yes, there's a lot to play around with this, but we are going to need a little bit of an area first in order to start cooking. So I was thinking, how about we just simply clear this area out? Basically, we have plenty of pink slime, I think, for all future projects. And so we can take this little area here and convert it into a cooking area. Sort of like our forge, but instead of our forge, this is going to be a nice little sort of outdoor cooking area. Now, I'm thinking that if we sort of give this a little bit of texture here in the corner, for example, and maybe a little bit of texture over here in the corner, this will give us a nice little rounded edge that we can then use to sort of set like a sort of roof that will be nice and slanted towards this area. And we can put all of our cooking supplies in here. With the basic sort of layout set here, don't have any lights in here just yet, but with this basic setup, we should be able to fit just about everything in this little area. And of course, we'll decorate it more here soon. But I'm playing around with some handcrafted stuff. So handcrafted is pretty cool. This adds all kinds of like decorative stuff that I think really fit into Minecraft. This even adds like some ovens and things like that, and some hood vents that we can use. And I think the hood vents are amazing looking. Even though they may not be like super functional as far as piping smoke around, they do look great. And there's also some like paintings and all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of craziness that you can play around with this. But I'm going to be using some spruce shelves and some spruce drawers. That in combination with this mod, the Farmer's Delight. Now, a stove is going to be very important to us, and there's a few mechanics that we have to go through to really dive into this mod. So brick is going to be important, the stove is going to be very important, and so is the skillet and the pot, which is how we're going to cook things, but not exactly how we're going to fully automate everything. There's also some cabinets from this as well, but a basket. This is how we want to kind of automate a lot of this stuff. Now, there's many ways you can automate, but I think using this basket is a really cool way. But we need to get canvas, and the way we get canvas is through straw. And the way we get straw may not be super easy to understand. You can get it from farming rice through the rice pinnacles, but we can also take, for example, a knife, which we've gotten a lot through loot, and we can run around and try to find some double tall grass. I think out here might be a good place to find that. Yes, right here. And we just simply need to chop this down, and we should get ourselves some straw from doing this. Yes, it doesn't take too long, and before you know it, you're going to have more straw than you know what to do. But the basket, oh boy, that is another super amazing thing that could go, well, unnoticed. Let's talk more about that. Now, the basket works very similar to a hopper. However, it doesn't deposit items anywhere. What it can do is, when placed normally, when items go on top of it, it picks it up as if it's a hopper. Pretty darn cool. But the thing that makes it really powerful is that you can place this thing on its side as well, and any items that go in this block face will get picked up and put in here as well. So this is great. This is great. This is a very useful block, by the way, that you can incorporate into mods like, I don't know, Create, that can pick up items off of saws and things like that. And then you can just, it's basically a barrel that can collect things, and you can go ahead and funnel things off. Now, in our use case, we're going to use it to collect items off of a stove that is using a skillet to cook with. Now, let me sort of demonstrate. Basically, a stove is a furnace that can cook foods. It's like a campfire that is always lit. So it is always going to be burning. Now, what matters, I think, is the direction for which this is placed. When you start to cook food on it, I think I should have some raw material, like raw bacon, for example. If I go ahead and put one on here, and once it's done cooking, it will fling it off in a certain direction. I think that direction that it flings off is dependent upon the handle. Now, I do have my magnet on, so let me try turning the magnet off again, and let's try this out. And I think you can definitely have more than one item on here, but this is a way to cook your food. Okay, so this sent it to the front. So we now see that with the handle here, we know that it is going to send to the front. So can we get it to send to the side or the back? If I place this here, now it should send the items, the cooked raw bacon, it should fling it onto this block right here once it's done. And if it is, then we know what direction it's always going to toss the item. And in that case, we can then use a basket. Now, I think we could also probably use a basket on top of here, and we might integrate some create into this to really get this cooking. So now that I know I can place food on here, and I know that I can pick it up with a basket on the side, let's actually put this in the appropriate direction. On the side like this, where did I go? Then I know that we can somewhat automate this. However, I'm not quite sure how I can go about putting items in the skillet, because you can't use a hopper, but you can have a machine right click and apply the item to it. But there's a caveat. If it's right clicked again, it will actually pick the items back up. And I don't want that happening. So you may think that a hopper might work, right? But it doesn't. And there's also no comparator signal that this gives off when there's food inside of the skillet. So really, it's much like a campfire where automation does seem kind of out of reach. But I might have a solution. It's going to involve, though, a timer to get this to work. Now, we've already used a timer before, but this time we're going to use it on this modular router. So the timers, they're pretty straightforward and easy to understand. You just need to place them and make sure that the orange part is facing the modular router. Then we're going to change the redstone mode. I am going to be using an activator for right now, and I have it set to the right side and just leave all the settings normal. It's just going to be right clicking. But it needs to right click this beef. And by default, you'll notice it right clicks it and then it picks it back up. It right clicks it and picks it back up. And we don't want it to pick it back up. So that's a little bit of a problem, right? Because we want it to spend enough time to cook. And I think it's about 6 seconds in order to cook normally. So if I change this to redstone mode high, then I shouldn't have this happen, or at least it shouldn't happen, until this gives it a redstone signal. Now, this might be too fast of a pulse for this to work. Let me see. Let's give it a bit more stake, and we'll see. Yeah, I already automatically notice that there is a bit of a problem. Maybe we want it to be set, yeah, to pulse once it receives a pulse, and then we'll set that pulse to, let's see, 200 seconds for right now. And we'll see how that works. And let's see if this will just send one item at a time, right? Is it trying to send all of them? That is something that I don't know. It might be trying to send all of them. Yeah, it's sending all of them. So is this going to be enough? If it is going to send the full stack. So it is cooking the items and it's going to pull it back in. And then it's going to wait another 200 seconds, which is probably not the appropriate time. I mean, with it taking 6 seconds and it's set to 120, which is exactly that time, it does give this enough time before it pulls it back in to have completed one, which in theory is working. Now we can make this skillet faster. However, we just need to enchant it, which seems a little bit odd, but we can actually enchant this skillet with fire aspect, and that'll make it go faster. So let's go ahead and add a little bit of fire aspect to this. This is the max level, so fire aspect 2. And yeah, we'll enchant this bad boy. And this should allow it to cook faster. It can also, by the way, cook things in my hand as well if you're near a fire source. This is a very weird mechanic, but it should work. If we go ahead and, for example, have some raw beef in our offhand while holding the skillet near this, it's supposedly supposed to cook. Yeah. While we hold down right click. Isn't that interesting? And now we have cooked steak. But yes, the best way is to place it down. And I wonder how much faster this is going to be. So I don't know the exact time now, whereas before I did. But we'll see. So we have 7. And will this be enough to cook 2 in that same time? It is. So it did. It cooked 2 in the same time that it took. So it's basically going twice as fast now. I think that is perfect. Now, I think it would be pretty wasteful of me if I was just to continue cooking all of this beef, because what I should be able to do is actually convert this beef into minced beef. Now, both of them should have very similar recipes inside of the cooking pot. Notice that we have raw beef used to make cabbage rolls. But we can also use the sliced variants of it, such as, for example, the raw chicken, the minced beef. And so this is going to give us double the amount for the mobs that we've killed, right? So if we just use a knife on a cutting board, it does appear that we can get this. So can we go about automating the cutting board and then sending the ingredients directly from the cutting board automatically to be cooked? I think we can. I think we can. So let's try this. Let's go ahead and set up a chopping block. I think right here will be a perfect place, and we're going to need a cutting board. And I think I have one. Nice. And we also have a knife. We actually have plenty of knives that we've gotten from looting. Now, the cutting board is kind of interesting. You can place the knife down, you can hold shift, and you can make it look decorative. But you can also put food on here and then click it and right click it, and notice the knife gets used and we get some minced beef. Now with this, you can hopper items in. So you can place the beef in, and then you can right click, and notice it's also sending it to the right side automatically, which means that we could potentially use the basket to collect this, and then we can send it over with modular routers or what have you. So this is all working. And then let's see, what else could we potentially do with this? I think the hopper is probably one of the coolest things that you can hook to it. But what if we use modular routers to send the items to here, and then we use the knife to right click and automate the cutting? So let's do this. So we have our basket, the cutting board is going to work. And then on top, we can have a modular router that is going to hopefully have a knife in it. So we can have the knife in the buffer, and we can have an activation module that is looking down and is just simply right clicking that knife onto the cutting board. Now, what might happen is if there's nothing for it to cut, it's probably going to end up placing the knife over and over again, which is not a huge deal, but it's probably something that we don't want happening if we can at all avoid it. You know what? I actually kind of like it placing down the knife and back up again. I just wish it would do it on the shift click version, which you can have it do. It just won't process the stuff if you have it shift right clicked. Now, we should be able to take items from a given inventory. Let's say that up top next to this modular router, we have a cabinet that we have set up here. And this is an inventory. And we put the items inside of this cabinet, and we should be able to send it to this cutting board from the same modular router. Well, not exactly. Because this has a buffer that's being used and we don't have multiple buffers, we can't actually do that. So instead, what I'm going to do is place a modular router here, and we'll be able to disguise these later on. But all I need is to have something pulling. So let's go ahead and actually use a regular puller upgrade. Just a simple one. This is the basis, right? The base one. So we'll just have a puller, and this is going to pull from the back. Let's go ahead and set it to the back. And so that should pull any items into this buffer slot that is in this drawer. So now that we have that set up, let's go ahead and send the items to the cutting board. So this, we just need to click where it's going to send, and that's on the cutting board. And when I put this in here, this should now send items into that cutting board. For example, it should send that, and now it was processed and ended up over here. So technically, this is basically automated. It's still going to place this in. This doesn't use any durability, but placing the meat in gets processed just like that. That's so cool. I almost wonder if I could potentially control the redstone knife behavior to stop if there are no items in this buffer. Well, I guess this does seem like that could be a possibility. Maybe we could try some redstone mechanics. So let's go ahead and try this sort of redstone mechanic, right? So the way that redstone works with modular routers is you have these detectors, which can detect if there's an item inside of the buffer. And if there's an item that matches this filter, which could be anything, if it's in there, it should emit a redstone signal, and it'll emit it to the side that you specify. So if I put this in here, then the emitter, when there's an item in the buffer, this should be emitting a redstone signal. Let's pull these out real quick and let's see. So redstone signal, and let's see if it lights this piece of redstone up. Hopefully it does. Then I know it's working. Let's see. It does. So it sends a signal here. And so what I'm thinking is if there's not items in here, then I should probably stop this modular router from working. So this should only work when there's a redstone signal. So I hope. So let's see if we can change this. So only work with a redstone signal. So redstone signal high. We'll place the redstone here. And right now it's not working, but if I put the meat in, now it should work. Okay, it's still off. So maybe I have the redstone mode set wrong. Set it to low. Okay, so low is on, but could we invert the signal? I wonder if I could use a redstone torch here. And it's on, that keeps it off. And then when this has items in, it should invert the signal. And then it will start working again. I think that's perfect. That's exactly what we need. We just need it to basically do the opposite of what I wanted. And now it's back on. Notice it does leave the meat in there. And that's a little bit of a problem where a delay would kind of help here, but I honestly don't mind this too much because as soon as I put another piece of food in here, it should start back up again. And I honestly like the food being on here versus the other way it could be. Now for the fun part, I need to take the meat that's in here and I need to cook it. So that means I need to pull it into this modular router. And that's where the puller upgrade should be just fine for this. I can click to tell it where to pull from. And now it should start to pull those items in, hopefully. And then they're going to automatically get tossed over here and be cooked and go into this basket. Now, because of this new way we have this set up, there's currently now we're not sending 2 items into this from here. So what I could do is probably cut this in half entirely. And instead of 120, we can change this to just 60. And now this should go twice as fast because this should cook 1 every 60 ticks. And that should make it a bit faster. So it's now for the fun parts, actually automating a food of some sorts. And it's going to require a few other mods to be able to get this fully automated, but it should be all possible. And that is to automate a hamburger. All of this to automate hamburgers. So we're going to need some cabbage, and we're also going to need some tomatoes, and we're also going to need onions. And we also need wheat because we need bread, right? Or it does say we can use cornbread, which is a whole other different sort of mod that's in here. But yes, automating cabbage shouldn't be too difficult. We could probably use the full head of cabbage, even though that would be kind of ridiculous. We could chop it up and we could mince this in order to get cabbage leaves. Tomatoes all can be grown from the crops. So we just need to get some crops set up and get those stored in some sort of cabinet. So here we go. Let's go ahead and add a few drawers in here. Each one of these are going to contain botany pots that are going to be making those few items we need. So let's go ahead and put this to work. We'll drop some dirt in here. I have all of the seeds, which you can find usually in loot chests and or in the world. And then we need to hoe all of these. Go ahead and put the wheat here. We can put the cabbage here, the tomatoes, and the onions. Oh, this is going to be great. And all of this should fill into all of these drawers. So how do I go about combining all of this stuff together? And that's where the crafter I kind of want to try out from Ender.io. So we've played around a little bit with Ender.io, but not gone this far. Now, how do I go about getting items into this? And I think one of the best ways might simply be to just take all of our product and set the recipe to this, which I think we can set the recipe by simply doing this, and that sets the filter for crafting this. But does it actually filter the items and only send what we need? I think maybe to try this out, we're going to need to go into Ender.io and try using item conduits for this and seeing if item conduits can detect and interact in this particular way. So I'm hoping that this will work. So we'll have the item conduit routed around. I also might need to make a couple more item conduits. So we'll have this sort of set here, and this is going to connect all up like so. And let's go ahead and give me some room here. And so we'll get all of these pipes hooked into each other like this. And right now this is set to extract, but it's not on. So let's go ahead and set this to always. What is this going to do? So I'm noticing right now that this is not doing anything because this is not set to insert. Now it's set to insert, and it placed the single beef patty here. Okay, so this crafter might be insanely good. So let's set this to always active here, and we should notice that, oh, the wheat needs to be crafted. So we actually will probably need another crafter set up in this chain. And this might be a good time to show off how channels work with this. Let me grab another crafter. So let's go ahead and tie in another crafter down here. So this is going to need a capacitor, and we'll need another ender gate on this. And so what is happening here? Oh, I guess that's trying to connect to this. But that's not a big deal. This can just be disabled by doing that. Perfect. So we have this powered. Let's go ahead and say make bread from our wheat. And so now that is set up. It should work. So how are we going to make sure that this wheat ends up in here appropriately? Well, what we're going to do is on this, we're going to change the channel. So this conduit is going to be set to the brown channel on the extract, and we'll make sure it's always active. That is going to basically only insert into the brown insert. So now we should have wheat going in here, and it's producing bread, which is perfect because we kind of want this to extract that bread. So now that bread is going to be in this inventory. And when we set this to extract on the green channel, everything should work as planned, and the bread should end up in this slot. So this is one way that you can sort of use those channels to manipulate what items go where and how they interact. So if I set this to always, now we should have bread in here, and that is being crafted down in this area. All these other ones just need to be set to always active. Set this one to always active, and this to always active. And now we should have automatic burger crafting, just like that. Well, so long as our wheat can keep up. Now that's what I call pretty darn cool. I think all of this setup here and the way it's functioning is perfect. Now this is just making burgers, but it could be modified, and you could pretty much make just about anything with all of these principles in mind. Now I think though it is time to decorate this bad boy and start putting in some cabinets. For example, we can put some cabinets up here, and we also need to change the way these modular routers look. I don't want the whole area to look like this. That would be kind of boring. But let's put this camouflage upgrade to work, and let's see, will it work on this cabinet? Will it make it look like it? Oh, it does, and it actually is a pretty cool looking texture. I like that, actually. Same with this. We can go ahead and make that one look like that cool texture. Oh, this is like the side. Oh, I guess it's very side specific, but I do like that it's kind of gapped there, so I'll leave that. And we have just like another double cabinet, and apparently I can change the way that these spruce shelves look just by using the hammer from Handcrafted. Let's see what other textures they have. Oh, they have like a bookshelf. Oh, like potions. Oh, I like the dishes. I do like the dishes in the shelves. Is there more? So it's like, oh, okay. Oh, that's perfect though. Like having the dishes in there. I really like that. Let's put like potions in this one. Like I kind of like that. This is another one, and we can have that look like cobwebs. Just the varying in textures is really cool. Now, just to make sure we keep that cozy feel of this whole area, I do want to place in a few more blocks back here just to make it feel like this whole area is sort of one connected thing and not like this random empty space that's back here. I feel like having this filled in is going to make this much more believable as far as the way the structure is defined. So like that seems pretty good. I kind of like this little outdoor area. I think adding some like campfires in here, give it that smoky feel that it really should have since it's an area that's being cooked in. I definitely want to beautify this as best I can. I'm not quite sure a good method for doing this. I'm going to try and use some of this beautify stuff. I should be able to use like some sunflowers on these little areas. And for example, like this, it add more. That definitely adds some really nice colors. I like that. And then there's these glow stone essence lamps. I can place like that right here and fill it with some glowstone. And that makes it emit some light and has little particles in it. I actually like that over using these lanterns. That's pretty cool looking. Maybe even over this in rod, I can use another one of these to generate some light. Very pretty. So with this beautiful place basically done, we still need to fully test and make sure everything works. Now I do have my magically sourced raw beef, which comes from my drigmies, and I still don't know where they generated from because the cow's still there, and I don't want to question those things. I don't think, but I should be able to put the meat in here, and then it should start harvesting that we can see there. And then it starts cooking, going into our basket, and that whole process is working. And now we have our hamburgers over here, basically just waiting on wheat, which is probably the biggest problem that we have, is just how long it takes for wheat to grow, which, by the way, could be fixed with some bone mill automation. Yeah, that's something though that I think we can work on maybe next episode, because today we have all of this done. I can now stop eating the nasty cheese and I can start eating burgers instead. That's going to be so much more saturation and so much better for me. And it really does feel nice that we have it all automated here. So guys, with that, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you learned something new, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Guys, give this video a huge thumbs up, and it's now time to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that huge thanks is going to go out to Modpack. I hope I said that right. Thank you so much for your amazing support over on the Discord and becoming a Discord premium member and supporting in one of the best ways possible. It's been a blast today. And you know, as always, thanks for watching. Bye.